Hi, my name is Brianna.
Hi, my name is Lorraine.
Hi, my name is Jonita.
Hi, my name is Lewis.
Hi, my name is Carolina.
And we did our project on increasing step count. The purpose of this study was to improve physical activity and overall health in our daily step count with the use of weekly increment goals. So we set our weekly goals based on our baseline number of steps, and we improved those gradually if we met those weekly goals, or we kept the goal the same if we had not met the previous week's goal.
So this project that we're doing is actually a replication study. Our original study that we're using is from Zarate et al. From 2019. It was titled Evaluating the Effectiveness of Goal Setting and Textual Feedback for Increasing Moderate Intensity Physical Activity in Adults. And in this study, they used a Fitbit to record the steps weekly for participants. They also did not let the participants actually view their daily, weekly step counts and their goals. So the researchers were the only ones who were allowed to see how they were doing, and from there actually increase or leave their weekly goals the same. And so the participants basically just went through the study without knowing until the end of the study. During the end of the study, they did find that it was successful, as 3 out of the 4 participants actually increased their overall step count. We also use a supplemental study. This one is from Takashi et al. 2016. It is titled Effect of Pedometer Use and Goal Setting on Walking and Functional Status in Overweight Adults with Multimorbidity, a crossover clinical trial. In this case, they went ahead and did kind of the same study where they are trying to increase step counts. This case, it is in adults who are considered overweight and also have a multimorbidity. This study, they use the step counts through a pedometer, and they also have weekly meetings to set their goals, and they give them brochures on different health and nutrition facts. In this case, they did find that this study was actually not successful in increasing step counts for their participants. So as we can see, there's limited research on this topic, and for some participants and for some studies, it's successful, and for others, it's not. So there is a little bit more research that needs to be done on technology and how effective it can be in increasing step counts. So for our study, we went ahead and replicated the original study from Zarate from 2019, and we used our smart watches to track our steps and kind of took our weekly averages and goals, and basically attempted to see if at the end of the study we actually were able to be successful in increasing our average steps.
Okay, so for our replication study, there were a total of 5 participants. 4 of our participants are female, and 1 of our participant is a male. Our ages range from 24 to 28. 3 of our participants live in the East Coast time zone, and 2 of our participants live in the Pacific time zone. However, all participants were enrolled in the master's program here at Ball State, and we all work as a behavior technician in our current time zone. The participants also collected data for 6 days, Monday through Saturday, and all participants set weekly goals to meet their overall average steps. The materials that we use for our study is a smartwatch. An example is, for me, I use my Apple Watch, and then all of us also use a step app. And I can show you what a step app kind of looks like. So this is just an example of the smartwatch. If you are able to connect it to your phone, it kind of gives you the average steps that you get throughout the day, as soon as you wear the watch and as soon as you take off the watch. And for us, we kind of took those off. And then this is the example of the other app that we use. It's called the Step app. And it does the same thing. It calculates the average steps that you take throughout the day. For the original study, they used a multiple baseline design with changing criterion. However, for us specifically, we use just the changing criterion design for all the participants. We use the definition of step, and it is defined as any instance where the person's left or right foot is lifted, move forward in place on the ground, where both legs are no longer parallel to each other. An example would be running, skipping, sprinting, walking, whether that's on treadmill, going up and down stairs. A non-example is running in place, walking in place, marching in place, or just jumping up and down.
So for reliability, reliability of the fitness watch was tested and recorded before we started this study. Pretty much, if we needed to do that beforehand, obviously we waited until after the fact. There could have been a possibility where we would have low reliability, way more room for error, and then replication of this study would really just be out the window. To calculate reliability, I engaged in running back and forth for 5 minutes while recording steps on both the watch and the step app. The watch recorded 603 steps, while the app recorded 592. We calculated IOA using the formula, the smallest frequency of steps divided by the biggest frequency of steps times 100. So in this case, 592 steps from the step app divided by 603 steps from the watch times 100, we came out to 98%. So IOA being 98%, we can very confidently say that that it is reliable recording steps.
Validity was also calculated prior to starting the treatment. And what I did to calculate the validity was walking on the treadmill for 5 minutes. And I sent the video to the group separately, and they each counted the number of times I engaged in step. And then we came together to see our results and what we calculated based on the video. And my personal count that I saw from the video was 470, and the watch calculated only 219. And technology isn't always the most reliable. It could have definitely not picked up all my steps due to the hand that the watch was on was actually resting on the treadmill, and the other hand was holding the phone, recording the number of steps. So just based on the hand placement, and it might not have actively recorded all of the steps that I took. And even though we didn't get the exact number of steps, we all came really close in our number of steps. I have linked the YouTube video if anyone wants to watch after the presentation.
So for our methods, during the baseline phase, we all wore our smartwatches from the moment that we woke up until the moment that we went to bed. And we continued our day and our week as usual. And we went ahead and took the average frequency, and that is how we determined our baseline. So from there, when we started our treatment phases, our first goal, we decided to make it 10% above what the baseline was. And from there, if we had met any of our weekly goals, we also increased that average number that we obtained by 10%. On top of that, if for the first week, we also added a 10-minute walk for treatment integrity purposes. So everybody was required to do a 10-minute daily walk. And if we increased our goal for that week, we would also go ahead and increase our walk to be 15 minutes. However, it would be increased by 5 minutes every week. However, if it was not met, then the average goal and the walk time remained the same. So for example, if the goal 1 was 100 steps and it was met, next week it would be 110 steps. And if that 10-minute walk was met with the 100 steps, the 110 steps would also be acquired with a 15-minute walk, and so on.
So as a group, we decided to take IOA during our baseline phase. We calculated IOA by taking the smallest frequency of steps recorded either on the smartwatch or step app, divided by the highest frequency of steps from either the step app or the watch, and multiply it by 100. So an example of this would be 2,607 steps divided by 2,963, and then multiply by 100, and it would come out to an 8%. For our treatment integrity, as Carolina explained, we included adding a daily walk time for all participants, and it was based on whether we had met our, excuse me, we had met our weekly goal. So in this case, if we met a weekly goal, we increase it by 5 minutes or not. For treatment fidelity, we had all participants remove the notifications from the step app and the smartwatch. Weekly step counts were viewed every Sunday during our check-ins, and in which new goals were placed if we had passed them previously.
So my results involved me meeting 2 of my weekly goals. I came into this experiment already having a pretty high daily step count just because of how my schedule is. I work 10-hour days and I do mostly NET over DTT. So I'm always on my feet and I'm pretty active during the day, as well as I try to go to the gym after work as well. I feel like it was easier to meet my goals starting out because it was earlier in the semester and I had a lot more time after work to take additional steps at the gym. But as the semester continued on, I had to find additional time for studying, and that kind of prevented me from meeting this really high goal. And as you can see on my chart, that I had like some daily steps as high as 13,000 and then some as low as 3,000. So it really just depended for me that what schoolwork and studying I had that week, or that prevented me from meeting those goals. But I really would say overall that this experiment didn't really increase my overall step count, just because of the fact that I already have a pretty high step count as it is, and it's just pretty hard for me to increase that even more with my current schedule.
So for my results, I was able to reach the goal twice throughout the entirety of the 5 weeks. I will say that with my schedule, it varies a lot. There are some days where I work longer hours and there are some days where I work shorter hours. And because of that, there are some days where I'm more, and there's some days where I'm more sitting and studying. And I believe that is why the data points fluctuate so much. Some days they're higher than others. And I think that is due to the work schedule, changing all the time. You can also see that for goal 3, there was a huge spike in my numbers. That week, I actually had a planned vacation, a cruise. And because of that, that is why the numbers are so high. I had to do a lot of walking through the cruise, through the ports. So the numbers are extremely higher. Because of that, for goal 4, I did have a huge increase in my goal. It was by 800 steps. So goal 4 and goal 5, I was not able to meet. And I think that is because, I did increase 800 steps because it was on a cruise. My daily, work schedule and life schedule does not allow me to have that many steps, due to having some days where I'm working longer hours, some days I'm not, and some days where I have to just study. So that was a huge factor when it came to this. If there was a day or a week where it was like I had more homework, I had more tests, I think that definitely decreased my step count because I was more hyper-focused on that. I would say that overall, I can say that my average did increase from baseline to goal 5. As you can see, in baseline, it was 4,000 versus 7,000. So overall, I do believe that it increased my average step count. But I do believe that since my goal 3 was such a spike, it was a little bit harder to get to that average goal that I obtained.
Okay, and as for me, I um only met one of the weekly goals out of the five. Um, as you can tell, I think that had to do a lot with also with my baseline. On an average, I was walking from 3,000 to 4,000 steps. Um, but there was a day in my baseline where I had an off day. So it spiked up close to 9,000, and so that's like a 5,000 gap. And that was when I was hiking. So it kind of did increase my average. So my average was 4,800. Therefore, with the 10% being added, my next goal was 5,000, and I was able to meet that goal. But then as the weeks goes on, I wasn't able to meet the goals, but I would say that my step has increased a little bit on a daily basis. Um, and with goal three, there was definitely a big decrease on my step. And it looks like it really went down to 498. And that was due to the fact that I was sick for a few days, which I didn't go to work. I stayed at home. I woke up late, and me just being at home, I wasn't doing a lot of walking and a lot of exercises. But even with just the nature of our job, I work a lot in the clinic base, and so I work with a lot of kiddos that don't really have like the mobility of consistently walking, consistently running. So I wasn't doing a lot of steps in terms of work, and with the environment, our clinic is very small. So I wasn't moving from one area to the next as consistently as I would as if I wasn't working. And also with the nature that I'm in, I live in Washington, so therefore I get a lot of rain. So I don't typically will go outside and do a lot of my 10-minute, or not even just 10-minute walk, but just like walking, going to the gym, or just walking outside in nature in general. So even though I didn't necessarily meet my weekly goals average wise, I would say that I did increase a little bit of steps here and there throughout the week.
So my results, overall, I would definitely say I was definitely able to increase my steps, especially from baseline, on average. Um, throughout the week, I definitely have at least one consistent day where I naturally am just going to be walking a lot of steps. Mostly for me, the variability in the amount of like different steps per day usually is up to whatever client I'm working with on that day. I do work between 7 to 9 hours a day with various different clients, some of which love going outside, love going on walks for their preferred activities. Others, very static, could care less about going outside. So that definitely has a heavy hand in the amount of steps I'm literally allowed to walk during the day. Um, Towards the end of data collection, I definitely think that one thing that played a big part in me hitting my goal actually was having a dog. I got a dog towards the end of data collection, and it definitely made me have to walk consistently more every single day. Which now it looks like that pattern is going to be pretty consistent. I'm definitely going to be at least hitting about 7,000 steps per day now. But yeah.
So for me, I passed our first goal, and I only passed that one. There's a lot of limitations for myself. I work essentially from 8 to 8. And most of my clients are actually more of a discrete trial training. So they tend to kind of sit at the table. They don't really like to wander a lot. So I'm not walking with them a whole lot. And when my one client that does like to walk or be outside, during the entire intervention, he just remain static. He was only motivated to sit and watch YouTube on my phone. So that really affected my step count. Also, there was quite a bit of cancellations from myself, and the times that I had cancellations, I would mostly focus on being on studying. And I would typically, when I study, I sit at my desk for around 4 hours, maybe more. So that also impacted my step count. And then in addition to that, I was sick in one of the weeks. So again, also decreased my step count, but I think overall it slightly did increase, the intervention slightly did increase my how many steps I took, but not to the significance of being able to pass my goals, sadly. So to conclude, obviously not all of our participants were able to meet every weekly step count due to various limitations that we already discussed and we'll discuss in the next slide. As seen with the validity, technology can tend to be unreliable and not detect every single step that an individual may take. However, each participant did at least meet one weekly goal and overall increase their average step count by the end of our intervention. We think that for future research, other forms of tracking step counts, such as waistband, pedometer, and Fitbit can be implemented in order to have more accurate results.
Limitations. So, all of us as individuals have our own lives. So there are definitely going to be varying factors that would affect our ability to go and actively try to increase step count, or even just getting steps in general. As previously stated, we all work with various different clients, all of which some are more active, some are way less active. So it definitely is a limiting factor just because our main priority is them, especially when we're at work. Some other things that definitely affected our data was the fact that it was reported by some of us in the group where we were either way more active during baseline recording or way less active than baseline recording. If we were more active than usual during baseline, it definitely would make the goals much harder and much higher to reach. So it could definitely play a huge factor in trying to hit goal. If we were less active, hitting goal, at least for the first week, would be super easy. It was also reported throughout data collection. Some of us did become ill. Some of us have, obviously other obligations, especially when it comes to academics, because we're all students currently. All of us in the group do not also have the same exact watch, so it definitely could affect the recording of steps as we went throughout this experiment.
So this is our contribution log. We would meet on Sunday evenings for our weekly check-in where we would write our data in an Excel sheet. Everyone mostly was able to participate in our weekly meetings. We had a few people only miss one meeting, but everyone contributed with the data collection and all the appendix B, C, and D. And this is our reference page. The YouTube link for the validity video is right here, as well as the articles that we referenced in our literature review. Thank you guys so much for tuning into our presentation.